Welcome back to MetalDisciple.com's The Vinyl Vault. Last time, on the very first episode, I covered Elf's Carolina County Ball, featuring Ronnie James Dio on vocals. That wasn't really a metal album, but today, I've got a pair of early 80s metal classics for you. Today's band is Mercyful Fate, and I've got their first two full-length albums, Melissa and Don't Break the Oath. Mercyful Fate is one of my favorite bands from the early 80s. When I first started listening to metal, I was listening to Black Sabbath and Ozzy, Quiet Riot, and Twisted Sister, stuff like that. Then I started hearing the early thrash bands, and my whole world changed. My first experience with Mercyful Fate was also my first experience with Metallica. Back in the Midwest in the early 80s, we obviously didn't have the internet or MP3s to share and learn about other bands, so we relied on tape trading to learn about new bands. In my little Michigan town, we didn't see a lot of metal in the stores, so whenever anyone got a copy of something new, it was immediately taped and passed around the small group of metalheads so we could all hear it. I learned about a lot of those early classic albums this way. I remember borrowing a copy of this one cassette, and it must have been a 90 or 120-minute tape, because on one side it had Mercyful Fate's Don't Break the Oath, and on the other, Metallica's Ride the Lightning. This was my first time hearing both bands, and upon hearing these now classic albums, the clouds opened up, the sun shone down, and I knew I was onto something very special. Metallica obviously went on to become the biggest metal band in the world, but after these first two albums, singer King Diamond left Mercyful Fate to pursue a solo career, and that was seemingly the end of the band. We know now that King would return eventually and record more Fate albums, but at the time, it seemed like there would only be these two. Don't Break the Oath was actually one of my very first vinyl purchases. I picked up this picture disc in the mid-'80s at a place called Wazoo Records in Ann Arbor, Michigan. For years, Don't Break the Oath was my favorite Fate album, based on mostly the killer opening track, A Dangerous Meeting. Tracks like Desecration of Souls, The Oath, and Gypsy backed up this opinion. At some point, though, and I can't really pin down when it was, I started leaning more towards Melissa. Maybe I got burned out on Oath, or maybe I just started to really dig the slightly more stripped-down sound on Melissa. The sound on that album is just so definitive of the time, and even now, going on 31 years later, listening to this album makes my pulse race and gets me excited and bouncy. One mark of a true classic album is its ability to cause just such a reaction in the listener, even after several decades of familiarity. You gotta love it. I love listening to metal on vinyl, but the classics like these hold even more appeal in this format. These old albums just sound so cool and so right on vinyl that they're among the gems of my collection. I dig everything Mercyful Fate have done, but these first two albums are definitely my favorites. Now, King Diamond's solo work is mighty fine as well, but that's a story for another time. Maybe I'll cover some of those next time. For now, check out both Melissa and Don't Break the Oath. On vinyl if you can, but do what you gotta do. Just check out these albums. Alright, that's it for this time. Make sure to check out MetalDisciple.com for more reviews, news, and videos. I'll see you later. Take it easy.